Welcome back, guys, to the Andrei Delic Podcast. Another day, another episode, another fucking reality check. Let's get into it. So last episode I did with Luca, I wanted to do the predictions, but some things happened and I wasn't able to do the predictions for the 2026 World Cup. So like I did last World Cup in 2022, that was the first year me and Luca started the podcast. I said before the World Cup started in November, I said in maybe end of October, beginning of November, just before the World Cup, I said, if you guys don't believe me, I have a clip. It's all videotaped. That's what's beautiful with having a podcast is whenever your takes strike gold, well, you have clips to prove it. And that is actually when I struck gold. I said word for word, and in 2022, before the World Cup happened, Argentina are going to win the World Cup. Messi is going to end up being the best player. And the top scorer of the tournament is either going to be Mbappe or Messi. Results, Argentina won the World Cup. Messi won the best player. And the top scorer was Mbappe. And the second top scorer of the tournament was, of course, Lionel Messi. So I struck gold. So let me strike gold again, which is something I'm really good at doing, right? So predictions for the 2026 World Cup, quick predictions. I'll do more elaborate predictions with Hassan tomorrow, but quick predictions for the 2026 World Cup. Argentina are winning their 4th World Cup. Messi is winning his 2nd World Cup. He's going to be the best player of the tournament. And Mbappe is going to end up, Mbappe or Harry Kane, they're going to end up being the top scorers of the tournament. So you see, I changed it a little bit since before, but this is what's going to happen. I'm going to clip it. I'm going to post it before the World Cup because I know that's what's going to happen. Why? Because Messi, even to this day in 2026, even if he plays in MLS, even if he still doesn't play in Europe, even if he's past his prime, let's not forget, he's past his prime. Doesn't mean that he's past being the best player in the world because he's still the best player in the fucking world. And like I said in the Finalissima, he's going to prove it. Because of politics, the Finalissima didn't happen. I think it's because of the war in Iran. The game was supposed to be played in Saudi Arabia or Qatar or some Middle Eastern country. But because of political instability in the Middle East, they decided to cancel the game. So there was no Finalissima. Finalissima was supposed to be played between Spain and Argentina. And I said that in that game, you're going to see that Messi is still the best player in the world because he was about to be playing against the best players in the world like Lamine Yamal, Pedri, and the list goes on. And he was going to show them that he's still the best player. But since that game was canceled, no problem. The World Cup is going to be in 4 months, right? Messi is born on the 24th of June. So Messi's going to be, how old is he going to be? He's going to be 39 when the World Cup starts. World Cup starts like the 12th of June. And 24, so in the middle of the World Cup, he's going to turn 39. So he's going to be in the World Cup at the age of 38 and 39. He's still going to be the best player of that tournament because he's still the best player on planet Earth. That's who Messi is. So that's my prediction for the 2026 World Cup. My quick predictions, of course. So let me say it again, just in case you guys skipped it or didn't hear it well. Argentina are winning their 4th World Cup. Messi is going to be the best player that tournament. And the top scorer of that tournament is going to be either Kylian Mbappe or Harry Kane. First of all, Mbappe because he's going fucking crazy right now. That's number one. He's an amazing goal scorer. And plus he plays with fucking France. France have a fucking phenomenal team and a crazy team they have. That's a fact. They have a crazy team. Although Argentina are still better because they have fucking Messi. But if we take Argentina out of the equation and we look at these other teams, France is at the top of the list with like Spain. Yeah, France and Spain are top of the list after Argentina for winning the World Cup. So Mbappe is going to have an amazing team. He's an amazing player, one of the best goal scorers in the world. And that's why I believe that Mbappe is going to end up being a top scorer that tournament for the 2026 World Cup. Maybe it's going to be Harry Kane. The reason why I think there's more chances of it being Mbappe than Harry Kane is because, first of all, Mbappe is better than Harry Kane, number one. And number two, France have a better team than England. That's a fact. Like or not, soccer, football is a team sport. So you need to have a good team around you in order to be able to play to your full abilities and to score as many goals as you can as a number 9. So France have a better team. Mbappe is a better player. Maybe he's not a better finisher, a better goal scorer than Harry Kane, but he's really, really close. If Harry Kane is better, he's just slightly better as a goal scorer than Kylian Mbappe. But it doesn't change the fact that France are better than England. I feel like France are going to go the further distance than England. Although, like or not, in the World Cup, what can happen is not necessarily just because your team went further in the World Cup doesn't mean that your team is necessarily better than other teams who didn't go as far in the World Cup as your team. That's a fact. Because how it works is if you're lucky, if your team is lucky, you can end up on one side of the tournament which have teams way easier and which have way easier games than the other side. And that's just life. Like, let's say Euro 2016, right? When Portugal fucking won the Euros. Respect, they deserve it. They won it fair and square. But let's not ignore the fact that Ronaldo and Portugal were really fucking lucky that tournament. They were. That's a fact. First of all, you know what? Let me pull up. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't have it planned. But let me pull up the Euro 2016 bracket, I guess. How can I call it? Tournament stats, I guess. Tournament. They were really fucking lucky. Like I said, Portugal, they won it fair and square. But it was really fucking lucky. First of all, let's start off with the group stage, right? So, standings. Okay, so let's start off with groups. So in the final, it was Portugal versus France. France, that tournament, they were fucking phenomenal. So France finished first in their group, right? With 3 games played, 2 wins, 1 draw, which equals 7 points, 0 losses. They finished first in their group. Then I skipped all these other groups. Then we go to Group F. Portugal's group. In that group, there's Hungary, there's Iceland, there's Portugal, and there's Austria. If you guys remember, this tournament was 10 years ago. Portugal finished 3rd in that group. Technically, in every single football tournament since the beginning of time, it's always been in a group with 4 teams. Number 1 and number 2, they pass through, and number 3, number 4, they get kicked out. But since in this Euro, there wasn't enough teams, and they needed more teams for the later stages, like the round of 16, the quarterfinals, and whatever. They had to choose, what was it, 2 or 3, 4? Yeah, it was 3 third place teams to go on further, and Portugal was one of those teams that were chosen. They didn't win a single game in the group stage. Portugal. Not a single game did they win in the group stage. Portugal played 3 games in the group stage, 0 wins, 0 losses, 3 draws. 3 fucking draws. 3 draws. In a group, if I'm fair, this is a shitty group. Hungary, Iceland, Austria. Not a single worthy opponent for Portugal, and they're all shit. And even then, Portugal fucking finished 3rd. With 0 wins, 0 losses, 3 fucking draws. And they finished 3rd. So they went on to go and play in the round of 16. Of course. So the round of 16. Let me fucking pull up the round of 16. Jesus fucking Christ, I wanted to cry that day. Why? Because Portugal played against Croatia. They played probably one of the worst games ever, and they still fucking won. Croatia, that tournament in the group stage, they finished first in their group. They had the hardest group out of all the groups. Let me show Croatia's group. Croatia, Spain, Turkey, Czech. They finished first with 2 wins and 1 draw. 7 points. They finished first. They were having a phenomenal tournament. They were having amazing players. Rakitic, Perisic, Modric, Brozovic, all in their primes. Mandzukic, Rebic, they were all in their primes. And they finished first. Playing phenomenally. And then, next game, round of 16. Croatia versus Portugal. I remember that day I was in New York watching the game in a pizza shop. And Portugal scored a last minute banger by fucking Quaresma. And it ends the game 1-0 for Portugal. Portugal were playing like shit. Although granted, Croatia weren't playing any better. But Portugal were playing like shit. And they won 1-0. Then they go on to the next game. Next game, Portugal versus Poland. It finishes 1-1. They go to penalties. Of course, Portugal win in penalties 5-3. Semifinals, Portugal versus Wales. Broski, Portugal versus Wales. Of course, Portugal win 2-0, and then they go on to the final, which they played against France, and they won 1-0 with a fucking ugly-ass goal by, what's his name? I forgot his name. Black guy on the team, number 9. I forgot his name. Luckiest goal I ever saw in my life. That is the goal that he scored. The luckiest goal to have ever been scored on a football pitch. That is what he did. Now let's look at France's route to the final, that tournament. France, that tournament, were the best team by far, that tournament. by far. Let's look at what their route to the final looked like. So Group A, they finished first. Like I said, 3 matches played, 2 wins, 1 draw, 7 points. Let's go on to matches. Round of 16. Boom. France versus Ireland. They won 2-1. Perfect. Ireland, not a big team. No problem. And then it was France versus Iceland in quarterfinals. France won 5-2, demolished them. And then in the semifinals, probably the strongest opponent that tournament, Germany. France won 2-0 against Germany. And then in the final, Portugal, Ronaldo got injured at like the 30th minute or something. Portugal won. France were playing better. Maybe not the game. It was not the best game when it comes to ability-wise and when it comes to skills-wise. It wasn't the best game. But France, the entire tournament, were the best team. But Portugal, because the final was only 1 game, anything can happen, Portugal fucking won. So you see how in a tournament, anything can happen, of course. But if I get back to my predictions, Argentina are winning it. Messi best player, Mbappe or Harry Kane top scorer. Next topic. Messi recently said, and I'm quoting him, I'm a believer. So whenever I go out on the pitch, I always think of God. I know that he is the one who decides the outcome and what happens to me. Before I get into Messi and him being a big Christian and a big believer, let me explain to you something, guys. Having fear whenever you do something, no matter how good you are at it, you can be fucking Lionel Messi, the greatest soccer player to ever exist. Even he, to this day, before every single match, he has anxiety. I mean, quote unquote, he has stress, and he's excited because it's a new game. Who knows what's gonna happen? And he's the greatest player of all fucking time in that sport. And every single game before the game, every single time before the game, he always gets butterflies in his stomach, and he always gets a bit stressed out. That's why he said that I know that he is the one who decides the outcome and what happens to me. So that in a way gives him peace of mind. But why does he need peace of mind if he's not stressed out before a game, if he doesn't have a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of butterflies in his stomach? It's because he does have butterflies in his stomach, and it's because he is a bit stressed out before every single game. So that just proves that no matter how good you are, no matter who you are, you remain a human being. You remain a human being. And through Christ, through Jesus, through a higher power, you're always going to be the best version of yourself. And like I said, fear is normal. We all have fear before doing whatever. Every single time I do a podcast, every single time I do one, before the episode starts, I'm always a bit stressed out. Always a bit. This is my, what episode? 149th episode that I do in my entire life. It's been 149 episodes that I do. And still, before every single episode, I get a bit stressed out. Of course, it's not like in the beginning, like the first, let's say, 5-6 episodes. I was way more stressed out than, let's say, after 20 or 30, then after 40 or 50, after 60 or 70, after 100, 120, and then after now 148. Of course, but I still get a bit excited because who knows what's going to happen. Am I going to speak correctly? What am I going to say? Although I do, in general, know what I'm going to talk about. But who knows what's going to happen? You never know. So you always get a bit stressed out, a bit excited, and a bit of butterflies in your stomach. And like I said, if Leo Messi can have butterflies in his stomach, if Leo Messi permits himself to be stressed out before games, permits himself to be excited before games, and he's the greatest soccer player of all time to have ever existed, then who are you to not have butterflies and to not have fear and to not be stressed out before a big event or before you do something that scares you or that stresses you out? Who are you to not have fear and to not be stressed out and to not be scared before doing something that you want to face, or before you do something that you want to do that you know that you have fear, but you have to face it in order to grow? If Messi is allowed, so are you. So don't be too harsh on yourself. Of course, always hold yourself to high standards. Always look to be the best version of yourself. Always look to strive the most that you can, to accomplish the most that you can, and to always be the best version of yourself. Always strive for that. But you're not perfect. Always remember that you're a human being. You're not perfect, and you're always going to be a human being, and you're always going to be perfectly imperfect. Always. No matter how much you level up, no matter how much you become a better person, no matter how much more competent you become in your domain, in your field, or just in life in general, you're always gonna be imperfect, and you're always gonna be a human being. So that's normal. Fear is normal. The absence of fear is not normal. We all have fear. The only way that someone can be courageous is, first of all, when he has fear, and then he faces that fear voluntarily. That is someone who is brave, who is courageous. Doing something you're not afraid to do isn't courageous. It's not courageous. It's not bravery. Bravery and courage is doing something you're afraid to do, but you do it because you know it needs to get done, and you do it because you have the balls and you want to face your fears, and you're brave and you are courageous to face that certain fear that you have. That is what bravery and that is what courage is. Without fear, bravery cannot exist. Without fear, you cannot be a brave person. Doing something you're not afraid to do isn't bravery, it's just something that's normal for you. That's why we all have different definitions of what bravery is, because we all have different fears, which is normal. So to get back to Lionel Messi saying, I'm a believer, so whenever I go out on the pitch, I always think of God. Of course, Messi being Argentinian, being Latino, they're very, very fucking religious. I'm pretty sure I'm ready to bet, from what I saw, from my personal experience, from my personal eyes, having traveled a lot the world, especially the Christian world, because I've been a lot in North America. I've been a lot in South America and in Europe, which is, like or not, it's mostly all Christian. And I can confidently say, I'm ready to place a bet that Latinos and Southern Americans are the most Christian out of all Christians in terms of belief and in terms of practice. Americans are very Christian, especially Southern Americans. They're very Baptist, they're very Protestant, and they have really big belief in their faith. They do. That's a fact. So are Europeans, especially Eastern Europeans, even more than Western Europeans. Although Italians are very religious, I could also say that Spaniards are. English maybe are a bit less. France are probably in the middle, but Italians and Spanish are probably very religious, and they are. I mean, Italy, like it or not, the Vatican is there. Very Roman Catholic country. Same goes for Spain. I would argue, from what I saw and from my personal experience, that Germany, England, and France are like probably the least religious out of all the religious countries in Western Europe. They're probably like the least, although they remain Christian and really religious. But I feel like they have higher percentages of atheism than, let's say, Southern Europe when it comes to Spain, Italy, Portugal even. I'm pretty sure they have less. Although they still have more than, let's say, Canada. I feel like Canada has a lot of atheists. Although, of course, on paper, they remain Christians. Like, they are Christians. Like, all the white Canadians and all their, like, real Canadians, on paper, they are Christian. But, of course, they consider most of them consider themselves to be atheists. And then I feel like Americans, especially Southern Americans, like from Texas, from the South of America, they're very Protestant, very religious. Even I feel like Black Americans are really, really religious. And even Latino Americans, like Mexican Americans or Cuban Americans, they're also really, really religious. So I feel like America is a really, really Christian country, because white people are really Christian. Black people in America are really Christian. Latinos are really Christian. And those three groups are the three biggest demographics in the United States of America. And all three of them are very, very Christian in general, from what I saw, especially Protestant for Blacks and for whites, and then for Latinos, mostly Catholics. But I'll be willing to bet that out of all Christian countries on planet Earth, out of all majoritarily Christian countries, it's either Latin Americans, meaning Latinos, or Eastern Europeans. I'm originally from Serbia, right? My parents are from Yugoslavia. Whenever I visit Eastern Europe, whether it be Yugoslavia, Ukraine, Romania, Greece, Russia, Poland, Czech, Slovenia, whatever, they're all very, very religious. Eastern Europe is way more religious than Western Europe. Although Western Europe does remain very Christian, Eastern Europe, there are some people who are atheists, but it's like probably 1% of the population, because 99% of the population in Serbia, they're all Christian. They're all Orthodox. I feel like that's the majority of all the cases in all Eastern European countries that are majoritarily Christian and Orthodox especially. And also there's Catholicism, like in Croatia. There's also Islam, like in Bosnia. Albania used to be majoritarily Muslim, but now with all the conversions that happened, they have a majority of Christians in their country. Now it's majoritarily Christians in Albania, a lot of conversions. And also in Russia, it's like probably 90% Christian and like 5% Muslims. I know they have a little bit of Muslims like Habib Nurmagomedov in the south of Russia, but it's mostly Christians. And so Eastern Europeans, from my personal experience, Eastern Europeans and Latinos are probably the most Christian people on planet Earth. And Messi, first of all, his descendants are from Italy, which are highly, highly Roman Catholic. And he's born and raised in Argentina, which is also, again, highly, highly Roman Catholic. And then he's also majoritarily raised and lived the majority of his life in Spain, which is also very Roman Catholic. So that's why I feel like Messi is so Christian. And only from his celebration, I mean, such a popular celebration, but it's the cross that he does in himself. Very, very Christian and religious celebration he's done. Next topic. I still can't believe I live in a world where Iniesta, Xavi, Kroos, Scholes, Lampard, Bruno, Pirlo, Vieira, Busquets, Mesut Ozil, De Bruyne, and Paul Pogba didn't win the Ballon d'Or, but Rodri did. I agree. I understand where you're coming from. Before I get too much into it, let me just take out a couple of people. Xavi, Iniesta, yes. Kroos, yes. Scholes, yes. Lampard, no. Bruno, no. Pirlo, yes. Vieira, no. Busquets, yes. Mesut Ozil, yeah. De Bruyne, yeah. And Paul Pogba, yes. All those players that I kept and that I said yes, they're all better than Rodri. All of them. Iniesta is better than Rodri. Xavi is better than Rodri. Kroos is better than Rodri. Scholes is better than Rodri. Maybe Lampard isn't. He's probably like equal to Rodri. Bruno Fernandes isn't. What the fuck? Who even put Bruno Fernandes in this conversation? It's a United fan. Makes sense now, but Bruno Fernandes definitely isn't. Pirlo is a better player than Rodri. Vieira isn't. Busquets is. Mesut Ozil is. De Bruyne is. And Paul Pogba is. So yes, the fact that we live in a world where Rodri has a Ballon d'Or and those players don't, it is kind of fucking crazy. But at the same time, it's not that crazy when you look at circumstances, right? Rodri won the Ballon d'Or in 2024, right? 2025? No, 2024. 2025, it was Dembele. 2024, it was Rodri with the Euro. There was no other player. Of course, in my opinion, Messi still should have won the Ballon d'Or. Like he should win every single Ballon d'Or. But okay, let's say you guys don't want to give it to Messi because he's in the MLS and he's kind of quote unquote retired because he's in the MLS. So, okay, I understand that. But that season, that year in the world, there wasn't any big shot player. Vini, okay. Like I understand people saying that maybe Vini deserved it more than Rodri. I've always had the opinion that he did. But I mean, it's not like night and day. It's not that crazy. It's not that big of a difference between Rodri and Vini that season. I mean, Rodri did win the Euros. He played amazingly in the Euros for the national team, and he played amazingly with Real Madrid. So, I mean, yeah, it's fair. Vini, of course, won the Champions League and played very well, but still, I mean, he wasn't phenomenal, Vinicius Jr. He wasn't phenomenal. Rodri also wasn't phenomenal from what we're used to seeing with Messi, Xavi, Iniesta, Ronaldo, Neymar. They weren't phenomenal compared to those players. But of course, in 2024, those were the best players we had. So they had to choose, like it or not. Every single year, they have to choose a winner. They cannot say, okay, you know what? This year, there wasn't anyone phenomenal, so we're not going to give it to anyone. Fuck no, bro. They still have to give it to someone. So out of all these players who are considered mediocre, who's the best, or at least who's the least mediocre, meaning that he's the best player, so he's going to have the Ballon d'Or. Because the Ballon d'Or, let's not forget, the Ballon d'Or is for who is the best player on planet Earth. By that concept, that's why in my mind and by my logic, Messi should have 15 Ballon d'Ors and he should still be winning every single Ballon d'Or every single year that he plays because he's always going to be the best player on planet Earth as long as he plays. Maybe once he reaches like 42, 43, where his body is going to give up on him, quit on him, then he won't be anymore the best player on planet Earth. But for the past 3-4 years, he's the best player on planet Earth. Even now in 2026, he's still the best player on planet Earth. And for the next 2-3 years, he's still going to be the best player on planet Earth. And that's a fact. So that's what the Ballon d'Or is, but it's all about circumstance. That's why Rodri has the Ballon d'Or, and that's why Iniesta doesn't, because Iniesta's prime was when Messi was in his prime, when Ronaldo was in his prime, and when Neymar was in his fucking prime. So he just happened to be born in a bad circumstance or in a bad timing. Same goes for Xavi, same goes for Kroos, same goes for Scholes, same goes for Pirlo, Busquets, Ozil, De Bruyne, and Paul Pogba. But just because Rodri has the Ballon d'Or doesn't mean that he's a better player than all of those players. It doesn't mean that. Michael Owen has the Ballon d'Or, Neymar doesn't. Is Michael Owen a better player than Neymar? Never, ever. I don't care that Michael Owen has the Ballon d'Or and Neymar doesn't. He's still not a better player. Dembele has the Ballon d'Or, Neymar doesn't. Neymar is still a better player than Dembele. Neymar is still altogether a better player throughout all of his career than Dembele. And he had a more successful and a better career, and he was a better player. And Dembele, as good as Dembele is, he will never be as good as Neymar Jr. Never, ever. I don't care how many Ballon d'Ors he wins. I don't care that he's already won one and that Neymar never won one. Neymar is always going to be a better player than Dembele. So, of course, just because Rodri won a Ballon d'Or doesn't necessarily mean that he's a better player than all of these other players. So, of course, in a way, it does make sense that he has a Ballon d'Or, because if Rodri would be playing in the 2010s like Xavi, Iniesta, although he was playing in the 2010s, but I mean, if he was the same generation as Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, he never ever would have touched a Ballon d'Or in his life. Never ever. He never ever would have ended up in the top 10 for the Ballon d'Or list. Never ever. Not no top 3. There's no chance they're top 3. Forget about it. Winning a Ballon d'Or in the 2010s as being Rodri, there's no fucking chance. But it's all about circumstance. So that was it, guys, for this episode. Peace out.